Welcome back to Web API Tutorials. I'm Venkat. In the previous video, we have seen the prerequisites for JWT authentication implementation. In this video, let us configure our Web API application to use JWT authentication. This is our application. In the previous video, we have added JWT secret in the app settings.json, and we have tried reading that from program.cs using the configuration. Let us start adding the JWT authentication to our application. So before adding the JWT authentication, I want to show you one thing. I did not add any JWT authentication now, and in the student controller I have enabled authorization. You can see I have added the authorize attribute and I am running this application. Our web API is running. Let us go to the Angular application and let us open the inspect window. Let's go to network and I'm calling this get all students. You can see there is a 500 error. What is that error? Go to response and you can see here no authentication scheme was specified and there was no default challenge scheme found. The default scheme can be set at authentication service challenge async. So this is the error message. This is saying there is no authentication scheme added to your application, but you are trying to use it. So let us add it to our application. Okay, stop it and let's go to program.cs. So above this builder.build. So this is the JWT authentication configuration we are doing now. Builder.services.add authentication. So in this options dot default authenticate scheme equal to JWT bearer defaults dot authentication scheme. That's the default authentication scheme. Options dot default challenge scheme equal to JWT bearer defaults dot authentication scheme, semicolon and semicolon. Okay, so just now we have seen one error that is here, right? So it is saying to add authentication scheme and challenge scheme. So we have added the authentication scheme and challenge scheme. So now we need to add so we are saying a default authentication and default challenge scheme is a JWT. So now we need to add the JWT, right? So we are saying default one is a JWT. Now I am adding JWT to the web API. Dot add JWT bearer. We can add in two different ways, default or named. Okay, so let us add the default one first. I'm going to add the default one. So options, this is the JWT validation scheme I'm adding. So here options dot, if you are having any HTTP issues, you can add require HTTP metadata equal to false. Okay, but never make it false in production environment. Okay, so production environment will be run on HTTP instead of HTTPS if you set this. Okay, so in my local, let us see if it is working in HTTPS, then no issues. So let's comment it for now. options dot. If you want to save the token, you can set it save token equal to true. That's okay. And here we need to give the validation criteria. Options dot token validation parameters equal to new token validation parameters. We can add this in the above. So token validation parameters, what are all you want to validate? First thing, validate issuer signing key equal to true. If you set this true, then it will validate the signing key. And we need to pass the signing key for that. So we have discussed we are going to do the JWT demo using the HMAC SHA 256 or 512 algorithm. For HMAC we need private key, right? So that's why in the previous video I have showed you how to read the private key. So this is how we can read the private key. Symmetric security key of encoding ASCII dot get bytes of our key. So this is the key we have added in our app settings.json. Okay, I have read that key here using the configuration, and for this encoding add this namespace system.text. So I have added the signing key. If you want to see it, you can also separate it from here. So here we can read, that's the key. And we can pass that key here. So once the key configuration is done, we can say whether we want to validate issuer and validate audience. Validate issuer equal to, I'm making it false for now. I'll explain you in detail in the upcoming videos about this validate issuer and validate audience. Okay, that's about the token validation parameters. We are reading the key from app settings.json here, and we are getting the bytes out of it, and we are passing that key here. Okay, for the validation process. Now the adding JWT is done. Okay, so our web API application now configured with JWT. So let me run it now. I'm running this application now. I'm going back to the Angular application. I will run it now. I'm running it again. Now you can see we are getting the 401 error instead of 500. Now we are getting 401. 401 is nothing but unauthorized. 401 is a unauthorized status code. You can click on this. So it is a 401 unauthorized. So now our application is working. It is expecting a token. That's why it is throwing error 401 unauthorized. Okay. So our application is configured with JWT now. So in the next video, let us get the username and password from the end user, and let's try to generate the token. Okay. For more videos like this, please like, share, and subscribe.